They say people avoid you, that they envy you for no reason, that they act strange around you, unsettled, irritated, even hostile. But what they don't say is that it's not your fault. It's not your tone, your face, or your choices. It's your energy, the invisible truth you carry, the presence you bring, the weight of your being that enters the room long before your body does. And that presence, it's too much for most people. Not because you're loud, but because you're real. Because you walk in with something they've buried deep, something they no longer recognize in themselves, a light that doesn't just shine, it exposes. Carl Jung didn't talk about auras the way spiritual teachers do, but he felt it, understood it. He saw that people carry invisible signals, psychological energy fields, born from the raw and painful work of becoming whole. He called it individuation, the dangerous, sacred process of confronting every part of yourself, even the parts you've been taught to hide. This energy isn't just personality, it's presence. It's when your silence says more than other people's words, when your eyes look through the mask someone wears, straight into the truths they can't face, when your being disrupts their performance because you've stopped performing. You've faced your own demons, and now you walk with them. That is terrifying to those still pretending they don't have any. That's what people sense, not arrogance, not mystery, but raw, unfiltered authenticity. And in a world addicted to illusions, authenticity feels like a threat. Jung understood that people will do anything, absolutely anything, to avoid facing themselves, even sabotage those who already have. So if you've ever wondered why your presence makes others squirm, why you're the target of silent judgment, distance, jealousy, or confusion, know this: it's not because you are wrong. It's because your existence reminds others of the work they refuse to do. And that is the mark of someone whose soul has stopped apologizing for taking up space. They won't admit it, not out loud, but they feel you before they ever hear you. Your energy walks in first. It echoes. It whispers things their mind has spent years trying to silence. It tells the truth without permission. They can't explain it, but suddenly their insecurities crawl to the surface. Their masks start to itch. Their false confidence begins to crack, and all you did was exist. See, when someone has spent their life pretending, your authenticity feels like an accusation. You are not loud, yet you shake them. You are not cruel, yet they label you dangerous. You are not judging them, yet they feel judged. Because your soul speaks a language they've forgotten how to hear. They talk about good vibes only, but what they mean is don't show me the truth. They smile in circles that feed their ego and starve their spirit. But you bring silence, depth, stillness, and in your silence they hear everything they've been running from. Jung knew this would happen. He knew the human psyche is terrified of truth, terrified of what's buried in the unconscious. That's why people cling to routines, distractions, and shallow connections. Because diving deep, that would mean dismantling everything they thought they were. And then you show up, you who've been through the fire, you who faced yourself when no one else would, you who wear your scars like silent medals, never to boast, only to breathe. And that breathing, that peaceful, grounded presence, it reveals their chaos. So they label you too much, intense, hard to read, not because you are, but because they've trained themselves to live on surfaces. And you are the ocean. They back away, not because you wounded them, but because you awakened something sleeping, something aching, something they are not ready to feel. It hurts, doesn't it? To be misunderstood, mislabeled, misjudged. To walk into rooms and feel energy shift. To be punished not for what you've done, but for what you are. But know this, what unsettles them is your power, because you've done what most fear. You've stopped hiding. You've stopped begging for acceptance. You've stopped fitting into boxes built for smaller, safer versions of yourself. And that kind of presence, that kind of unapologetic selfhood, it breaks illusions. It forces people to choose, either awaken or retreat. So let them retreat. Let them call it what they want. Too intense, too deep, too complicated. They don't hate you. They fear the mirror you hold up without even trying. And some mirrors don't flatter. Some mirrors shatter delusion. You are not too much. You are just real in a world that's starving for it but doesn't know how to digest it. So stay real. Stay radiant. Stay you. They don't tell you that healing comes with isolation. They don't tell you that finding yourself often means losing others. They don't tell you that when you stop performing, people stop clapping. But you found out, didn't you? You stopped betraying your soul to belong, and suddenly, you didn't belong anywhere. You stopped laughing at the jokes that hurt your spirit, stopped nodding to lies, stopped shrinking just to make others feel tall, and the silence that followed was deafening. And not everyone wants to meet the real you. They were in love with your compliance, not your courage. They needed your silence, not your truth. So when you began walking in your wholeness, not perfection, not performance, but wholeness, you became dangerous because you no longer needed them, and people rarely forgive you for growing beyond their control. Carl Jung once warned, the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. But what he didn't say is, that privilege comes with a price, and the first payment is loneliness. Because in a fragmented world, wholeness is offensive. In a shallow world, depth is threatening. In a blind world, those who see are heretics. You stopped running from your darkness. You embraced it, understood it, made peace with it. And that's how your aura became so heavy, not dark, but dense with truth. And truth has gravity. It pulls people in or it pushes them out. That's why they ghost you, why they misunderstand you, why they warn others about you in hushed tones, not because you harmed them, but because you saw them, and being seen when you're hiding is the most terrifying thing of all. Your aura holds the weight of your story, the pain you alchemized into wisdom, the wounds you turned into power, the silence you turned into presence. You didn't just survive, you transformed, and transformation makes people nervous. They watched you fall and rise differently, not with bitterness, but with clarity, not with vengeance, but with vision, not louder, but quieter, and that silence speaks volumes. Now, your presence demands authenticity, not by force, but by simply being, and in your presence, people either rise or run, so let them run, let them leave if they must. Your soul didn't come here to be watered down, dimmed, or diluted. You came here to awaken and awaken others, even if it hurts, even if they curse you for it, and when it gets lonely, when your strength feels like a curse more than a gift, remember this. You are not hard to love. You are hard to fool, and those are not the same. You don't belong everywhere because your energy is medicine, and not everyone is ready to heal. There's a silence that comes with growth, not the peaceful kind, but the aching kind. The kind where laughter feels distant, crowds feel hollow, and the world seems quieter. Not because it is, but because you've changed. You see more now. Not because you want to, but because you can't unsee what the pain taught you. You walk differently now, not because you're trying to impress, but because your soul has been rebuilt from the ashes of your breakdowns. You stand alone not because no one cared, but because you stopped settling for the kind of company that costs your peace. You used to chase connection. Now you wait for resonance. And that's why it's lonely. That's why it's quiet. Because very few people speak the language of your silence. When your aura becomes powerful, your path becomes narrow. You start feeling out of place in rooms you used to crave. You begin to realize that some conversations drain you, some crowds numb you, and some people only loved the version of you that needed them. They don't know what to do with you now that you've stopped begging, now that you've started listening to your inner voice instead of external noise. Now that you no longer play small to make others feel secure. You became a threat when you became whole. You stopped asking for validation and started living in truth. And that truth, it burns the eyes of those still hiding in the dark. They think you've changed. They say you're different now. Cold, distant, difficult, but they're wrong. You're just clear. Clear about what you want. Clear about who you are. Clear about what you're no longer willing to tolerate. And that kind of clarity, it's terrifying, because clarity means boundaries. Clarity means standards. Clarity means silence, not the absence of words, but the presence of power. You're no longer accessible in the ways you used to be. Not out of pride, but out of preservation. They'll call it ego. They'll call it attitude. But deep down, they know what it really is. You outgrew the cage they were comfortable keeping you in. They don't know what it cost you to rise, what it took to rebuild from nothing, what it meant to choose yourself in the moments you felt most abandoned. Your aura was forged in the fire of isolation. And now it glows with a calm. They can't comprehend, a strength that doesn't shout, a wisdom that doesn't need to explain itself. You don't show off, you show up. You don't need to prove your worth anymore, you embody it. So yes, your aura unsettles people. Yes, it shakes something loose in them, and yes, some will leave, let them. Because what you carry now is not meant for everyone. It's meant for those who are ready. Ready to see, to heal, to feel, to grow. Ready to stand in the truth without flinching. Because your light doesn't just shine. It reveals, and revelation, that's not always welcome, but it's always necessary.